podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks, no breaks, no fear, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along to this episode, reviewing everything that's been happening in British Speedway, not least at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, as Dan Bewley does it again.
I had a few things I said before this weekend. One of them was to Phil. I was like, if I win, can we have a game of golf Sunday? And he accepted, but I don't think he thought I would do any good, so he's lost, but my gain.
And Robert Lambert made it a British 1-2, and he goes second in the World Championship table.
I couldn't have worked out much better, and I'm sure Wolfie was back, I'd be a 1, 2, 3.
To review everything that happened in Cardiff, we hear from Kelvin Tatum, who joins us not only to look back at the Grand Prix, but also ahead to the upcoming playoffs. And Kelvin singled out the ones to watch.
I'd go as far as to say they're favourites. They don't have any problems, and they're all firing. And as I say, you see momentum at this time of year is absolutely vital.
Much more from Kelvin Tatum coming up in the second part of No Breaks, No Fear this week. And we round off with a look back at the action at Oxford for the championship pairs, which was claimed once again by the Red Car Bears.
We didn't have it all our own way. We had to work hard, and certainly for myself, sort of up and down all night, but we got something working in the end, and the semi-final and final was the main ones, and luckily I got it going.
More from Danny King and Charles Wright of the Red Car Bears on the way in part 3 of the podcast. All this and much more, including a look ahead to the bank holiday fixtures, coming up in this week's episode of No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
So Kelvin Tatum has his reaction to the results in Cardiff at the weekend in the British Grand Prix. A British 1-2. More about that to come. We'll start, though, with reaction from Monday's fixtures in the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership, where Sheffield extended their lead at the top to 4 points now with a spectacular comeback win at Ipswich on Monday. The Tigers trailed by 8 points after 6 races, but turned the meeting around completely and eventually ran out 52-38 winners. Aussie ace Josh Pickering was in spectacular form as he racked up 18 plus 2 from 7 rides, dropping his only point in his opening outing. And he received strong support as well from Jack Holder and Chris Holder, along with Kyle Howarth. But for the Witchers, for who Dan Bewley top scored with 9 plus 1, it was a second home defeat in 5 days. And it underlined really their injury problems that they're currently facing. Let's get some reaction from that then, starting with top scorer Josh Pickering with Scott Nichols.
Thankfully enough, I've ended on a good note here tonight. It's a track that I have struggled at in the past, but I always feel like I finish on a good race here. So I went with a completely different setup tonight, and it paid dividends.
You said you finish on a strong note. Do you feel that it's kind of, as the night goes on, you kind of settle into it? Because Ipswich can be a tricky little place to come to, especially early doors. Yeah, for sure, mate. Probably made things a bit easier not having you lined up there tonight, having to verse you. But look, it is one of them tracks, and me being able to turn a bike or anything like that, it's never been an issue for me. But so I need to cut in there, but that start, mate, what an absolute rocket ship. I mean, if you made starts like that, you'd beat anyone here. Yeah, exactly. Batch wasn't too happy about it. He was giving me a bit of stick when I come in, but I was near certain I didn't jump it, you know. That's the norm. Yeah, when I seen the video back, I thought, oh, well, you can cop that one. But look, it was a great result. We obviously they were a weakened side tonight, not having Doyley and Emil, but Dan still come in and started off with a couple of wins that tailed away in the end. But we had a job at hand, and Steady made some good calls at the right times to put tax subs in and use our RR for tyre correctly. So we all got stuck in, and we want to win that trophy again.
You certainly do, and how's the momentum now shifting in the team? You said Ipswich is a tough place for you to come, so to come away from here winning convincingly, that's got to give the team a huge boost.
Yep, team, personal level, everyone. I feel like everyone's going to have their heads held high, which we should have. I started the year quite well, and then I got injured, and then I was a little bit up and down, but I've finally got something working again now. Riding one of the Ashteks, and John Howarth is doing the servicing for me, so credit to them for working together and giving me that rocket ship. So hopefully things can continue on.
Yeah, good night for the Australian contingent of the Sheffield Tigers. One of those was Chris Holder, who bagged himself 11 plus 3. He's also been talking to Scott Nichols.
We like coming here because it's a challenge, right? So we come here going, we'll get it this time. And then the first 4 heats was kind of like a same old, Ipswich. But then they fixed it, it just needed a quick track grade. And after that, we got sort of set up all right and made some good gates. And, and had a good night. But, they're missing, obviously, the 2 key riders, aren't they? So they're struggling a little bit with replacing them 2 boys, but we have to make the most of that and it was a good, bit of a practice for us all too, because we have to come here a few times. So yeah, it's good.
Look, there's no question they're missing their top two, but you guys still had. You can only beat the opposition in front of you. But when the track started to change a little bit, you just said about setups. We'll talk about setups. But was there like a chat within the camp, or was it just an individual concern? Everybody kind of just settled themselves in.
Yeah, it was just keep persevering. It'll get better. It's going to get better. And sure enough, we knew when we walked the track that it had a lot of loose material on the inside, and that sort of creates a few issues early. And then, after that first track grade, it sort of just evened it all out a bit. We started making good starts, and as you know, making starts around here helps when you've got a bit of fresh air. And I think we all got a bit of a go out in front, and it's a different racetrack when you're in front.
Tough night then for the Witches, who make that their second home defeat in 5 days. And, of course, they're back in action later this week at Vauxhall as well. Let's hear from the Ipswich Witches team captain, Danny King, with Abby Stevens on Eurosport.
Yeah, we're just struggling at the moment. It's no, everyone can see that we're missing our top two guys, and they're a big hole to fill in this team. We're trying really hard, but it's all come at the wrong time of year for us. We know we're in the playoffs. We just need to try and regroup and get ourselves ready for that.
How frustrating is it, Danny? You've been leading the standings all year. You lost your 100% home record at home last week, and now, like you say, you're missing two your big stars. But the morale, how has that changed in the team?
It's not good, I'll be honest. When you lose two guys like that, they're such a big part of this team, and they have been all year. Even Jason, he got injured early on, but he's still been here every week supporting us and very active in the pits. But as I say, it's just the wrong time of year for it all to be happening. But, we need to regroup, as I say. Hopefully we can do that, get through these next few meetings, and come playoffs we can be back in form. But it's just the wrong time of year to be doing this.
Yeah, of course, both sides are assured of the playoffs. That's not in any doubt. It's just the final positions, with Ipswich having led the way throughout. First will ride fourth, second will ride third in the playoff picture. Leicester celebrating playoff qualification in the top flight for the first time in the club's history. The Lions, who are the form team in the Row Motor All Premiership right now, made it 9 matches unbeaten with a 53-37 win over Oxford on Monday. It guarantees their top 4 place and takes them currently to second in the table. It was also a result which all but ended the Spire's hopes, as they can now only move level with Bellevue on match points, but their current race points difference is vastly inferior to the Aces. The skipper Max Frick led the way for the Lions with 13 points at the Pidcock Motorcycles Arena, whilst Ryan Douglas added 10+2. Polish ace Maciej Janowski was excellent for the Spires, racking up 15 from 7 rides. Well, let's hear from a very happy Leicester boss, Stuart Dixon.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. It was a good night. We started very, very well. And then the rain intervened, the weather intervened, and Oxford gave us a bit of a fright. They asked questions of my team. We finally found the answers after 2 or 3 heats. We get back into a rhythm again. Credit to Oxford for pushing us hard without the number one, and they never made it easy for us, which I never expected them to do so. But very relieved, very happy, and good feeling in the stadium tonight. And we've still got 3 matches to go, which we can keep building the confidence and try and get higher up this league table. That's the plan, get as high as we can.
And it's a real boon for the fans as well. They've had some hard times when they've been in the top flight before, Leicester supporters. It must mean so much, you've got a special relationship with them.
Yeah, there's no secret. I do my history before I came to the club, and I know we're bottom of the league 4 times out of 5 in the Premiership. And I did promise that while I was here, when we went up initially, I would do everything in my power to make sure that we didn't have that sort of performance, that sort of run again in the Premiership. Last year, we fell agonisingly short. I think that's pushing me on, sort of thing. It's better than maybe 1 or 2 of the guys who were here last year as well. But full credit to my riders, all of them. We got a good response to the crowd today. I'm pleased for the Leicester supporters. As you say, they went through some tough times, but we got the win, we're in the playoffs, and it's a really good feeling, yeah.
Well, the Kingsland Stars banished any fears of the Row Motor All Premiership wooden spoon as they raced to a 46-43 win at Birmingham. Their second success at Perry Barr this season, the Stars ended a 4-match losing sequence with that result, which was built around a strong start. They went 9 points up inside the opening 5 races. The Brummies fought back largely thanks to the top 2, Freddie Lindgren, who got 12+2, and Tom Brennan with 12+1. But the enigmatic Polish racer Piotr Pawlicki failed to score from 3 rides. Stars captain Niels Christian Iversen hit double figures again, 10+1 for him. A total match by guest Norwick Bladorn, and rising star Anders Rowe impressed once more with 9. Reaction then, first of all from the victorious side, Rob Lyon, the team manager, speaking with Ryan Guest.
A second away win of the season, once again here at Birmingham, and a real battling effort from the team tonight.
Yeah, it certainly was, yeah. Terrific effort from all the boys, all played their part tonight. And, rider replacement worked well for us. And, really proud of them. They put a good shift in again. And, I said, we don't want a repeat of Thursday when we were 18 down after 7. And, there was a different game tonight, different bunch. And, good, really pleased with it.
Like you say, contributions from all round as well, and even Patrick, who hasn't found the going easy on these away tracks in Britain. 3 very important points from him as well.
Yeah, a bit better from Patrick tonight, and we got 4 meetings on the bounce now, so hopefully he can get some confidence at home and have a good finish to the season.
Not wanting to pick out any heats in particular, but if we can just look at Heat 14, we've just mentioned Patrick there, obviously excluded for delaying the start of Heat 14 just as he was getting ready. I know you weren't too happy with that at the time, but Louis Kerr coming in and taking the checkered flag, and that was the heat that got it done for the Stars in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't actually see from the pits here. I couldn't really see what the situation was, and obviously he was excluded for time had run out on the clock, and that's the way it is. It's black and white, and that's the reason I just wanted to clarify it, really. But gate 1 towards the end was working really well, and Louis did a great job and finished it off for us.
Like you say, it's nice as well, this win as well, because it's been a tough run of form for the side, obviously, with everything that's been going on rider-wise. But now to get that win to take you in this massive run of home meetings you've got, I think it's 4 in 10 days coming up shortly as well. That's got to be a great feeling to be taken back to the Adrian Flux Arena.
Yeah, it is, and it'd be nice to have some home meetings in succession. Just got to try and pick our guests wisely, and try and work and meander our way around the 8-day rule as well, because obviously we've got, I think it's 4, as you said, 4 meetings in a quick space of time, so that's important to make sure we get it right. But hopefully we can, and we can get some more points on the board and some home wins, which will be good for the fans, I'm sure.
Landers Row for the second time this season, Kings Lynn get an away victory. It's also here at Birmingham, and the boys really dug deep here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. We all worked hard. We come in obviously with a 6-man team. And we all worked hard, and it paid off in the end. We got another away win, and that's the main thing, to keep the away wins coming.
And Birmingham, just as you thought you were pulling away, the Brummies did fight back at one point and kept it close. But like I say, the boys really dug deep and made sure you maintain that gap, which is always key away from home as well.
Yeah, definitely. We only really get to ride here once or twice a season, obviously. So it's find setups and stuff, and then as the track changes, they might gain a little bit. But we managed to all find the setup as well, and we got that away win, and that's all that matters, really. Yeah,
it's 9 points for yourself down at reserve again, so a key contribution, a couple of race wins, and this has been a big season for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I messed up a little bit, had a retirement in 1, and I think I could have more points. But I'm happy with 9, so keep pushing on and just keep pushing on, really, improving and cruise along and nice and slowly, and score as many points as possible and have fun and do well for the team.
Nights like this as well do leave you wondering what could have been for the Stars, but obviously you can't do anything about the past now, and obviously still plenty of home fixtures coming, four in very quick succession, and it'd be nice for the supporters and the management of the club if you could go out on a high at the Adrian Flux Arena.
Yeah, definitely. No, we've had a really lot of up and down season with injuries and things like that, so but now sort of the team we got a good atmosphere and everything, and it's good fun. Obviously, you have a good bunch of guys, and it's good fun, and we all work together and everything. So, we want to do as well as we can. Obviously, Kings Lynn and the fans, everyone hasn't had the easiest season because of all the things like injuries and stuff. So, we try and put on a good show and just try and win as much as possible, and make sure the Kings Lynn fans stay for obviously next year, and see what happens.
For Birmingham then, meanwhile, a huge blow, that defeat, unable to experience that winning feeling, beaten 46-43 by Kings Lynn at Perry Bar. It is a damaging result, that, because that confirms they will finish bottom of the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership on their return to British Speedway's top flight. The night got off to a far from ideal start, really, with Victor Lampard disqualified from the opener. The pole came down on turn 1, and after studying replays, the referee, Dave Waters, put that blue exclusion light on, much to the dismay of the Brummies management team. Yet despite having a man less in the rerun, Birmingham still edged ahead. Freddie Lindgren won a rare 3-2 after the Stars number 1 Jan Kvek retired with machinery problems. The visitors then recorded back-to-back advantages to open up an 11-6 lead before an impressive and determined ride from Tom Brennan saw him work his way to the front to take the flag in Heat 4. Top scorers for Birmingham then: Freddie Lindgren with 12+2, Tom Brennan with 12+1, and Tom has been chatting to Ryan Guest.
Yeah, I'm sort of running out of words to say right now. So it's huge shame for the club. I mean, I keep trying to mention how much effort they put in, and you can clearly see the amount of effort going into this. Unfortunately, we seem to come short again, but I mean, all we can do now is try and finish as strong as we can.
It literally is just a case of everyone not clicking on the same night as well, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, I mean, we all know how to ride a bike, and we all obviously know how to ride a bike at like a very high level, but unfortunately we all seem to kind of fire at different stages. But yeah, I mean, you can see what happens when we all fire at the same time. We seem to win, but as soon as we don't, yeah, there's obviously issues. But everybody's trying really hard. Sam and Chris in the pits are doing a fantastic job, and everyone as a team collectively are actually doing a really good job. But it just isn't happening right now.
Obviously, the last few weeks against the likes of Leicester and Bellevue, not many people were giving you a chance, but obviously to push them so close, there were positives that could become. But obviously, people were kind of expecting, in a way, to see you end that winless run. So does that make it a little bit more harder to take tonight?
100%. You know, I mean, we seem to come so close, especially against those kind of high-level teams, and especially when people write us off, we seem to always bounce back. But unfortunately, again, we seem to come short. But no, I mean, tonight we were pretty optimistic. It was the same as always. I mean, we take every meeting the same, especially Sam and especially Chris. So we were on track walk. Everything was exactly the same. But yeah, things just didn't work out. They seemed to get out the starts a little bit better than us, especially early on, and we seemed to run too many last places. So we need to kind of like eliminate that, and we should be good.
Yourself and Freddie in particular can hold your heads high, and you went out there in Heat 15 and got a 5-1 as well. What is it like being able to have someone like Freddie in the team that you can partner up in those Heat leader positions?
Yeah, massive. I mean, Freddie cares about the team so much. He also, you know, he actually gave me gate 1 when he kind of had more points going into 15, which is kind of notoriously how you do it, is like whoever's the highest point scorer will get the first pick, and he actually gave it to me just like knowing he can make it off 3, and that's like purely like a team thing, right? So for him to be around us and for him to be lifting us up really does mean a lot, and I'm just kind of a little bit more ashamed that we haven't had more results with him, because certainly since he's come in, he's definitely made a huge impact.
Tom, many thanks for speaking to us tonight.
Thanks, cheers.
So Tom Brennan and Freddie Lindgren delivering the goods for the Birmingham Brummies, but ultimately they're just falling short in that final heat yet again. Let's hear from the Brummies CEO, Nigel Tully, with Ryan Guest.
Well, I could put so many reasons on that. Obviously, some riders weren't hitting form, mentioning no names. I mean, Tom did superbly, Freddie did superbly. I mean, I've been up to Tom tonight and said, I wish we could clone you. It wasn't our night again, was it? Victor getting excluded in Heat 1. To me, that was ridiculous. He wasn't the primary cause of the stoppage. It was on the first bend. It would have normally have been all 4 riders back to the tapes, and it wasn't. And I'm sure he'd have scored points in that race. I just don't know. Every time 2 or 3 points. What a run we've had now of losing by 2 or 3 points. It's unbelievable. And I think everybody was expecting us to get points tonight. And everybody tried the hardest, apart from 1 or 2 riders. Well, 1 rider, mentioning no names. We can't do anything about that for the last couple of meetings, but I wish we could. We're just going to look to the future now. I mean, I think we put on some exciting riding again tonight for everybody, but we just didn't quite get there.
I was going to say, you have still got 2 meetings left at home and away to Ipswich as well, so still not a total lost cause to end this winning streak in 2024. But as the CEO, as the man, the owner who's put all the time, effort and resources in, just how deflating is it when the team are on such a run like this?
It's incredibly deflating. I mean, yes, we've got Ipswich home and away. Now we got the bonus point in the first half of the season against Ipswich. They're top of the league, chasing for the league, and we got the bonus point. Kings Lynn bottom of the league, and we can't beat them.
Whatever happens, like you say, everyone knows the situation regarding the potential of 2025. You gave us an update on that a few weeks ago, but should you be able to come back to the tapes next year, do you think you've learnt even more lessons going into next year?
Oh yes, we certainly have made, and we're working on that now. We are starting to work on next year's team. We've got to get this season over with. Our financial situation hasn't been helped with 3 or 4 away meetings on the trot. But yes, as long as we can get into next season, we are planning the team now. I will never, ever throw in the towel.
Yeah, we know you'll never throw in the towel, and like you say, team building, it will obviously help if you can have some prior notice that you are going to be accepted into the league next year and that you can get back on track here at Perry Bar. But from the team building perspective, perhaps a different approach next year.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't work, did it? I mean, the major problem was that we weren't accepted into the league until after the AGM, when majority of their teams had got 80% of their team sorted. But the approach will be different next year. There's certain riders obviously will be back next season. It won't be a completely fresh team by any means. At least 4 of the riders will be retained. And we just got to work on that, which is that's what you do, isn't it? You come into the Premiership, you come in as the fledgling team, first year into the league, and then you can build your team and you carry a certain amount through to next season. We got a completely fresh team this season, and we've learnt by our mistakes. Some of them, the mistakes, just couldn't have been foreseen. We should never have been in the position that we're in. We've been on the back foot all the way through the season.
So, a despondent-sounding Nigel Tolley there, but optimistic for the future and looking to steal a march on many of the clubs and get his team building underway. He's looking to retain 4 of the 7 riders currently in the side, which means 3 will be making way. You can have your own guessing game as to who that might be. So here's the Rowe Motor All Premiership table as it stands after that round of fixtures. Sheffield currently leading the way then, ridden 21 meetings, they're on 38 points. Leicester Lions on 21 in second place, they're on 34 points. Ipswich have also ridden 21, also on 34. The Bellevue Aces, they've ridden 20, so got a meeting in hand on the sides above them, and they're on 31 points. But that is going to be the top 4, how it finishes, because Oxford are not going to be able to catch Bellevue once they cash their points that inevitably they will get with their fixtures still left in hand. Once they've cashed those in, then they'll be uncatchable. So it will finish with Oxford in 5th, Kings Lynn 6th and Birmingham in 7th. I don't really see too much change in that, to be honest. But the top 4 is also confirmed, just yet to sort out the final order. And some interesting fixtures coming up in the week ahead, which could have a big effect on that, actually. Thursday, Ipswich racing Bellevue, and Bellevue have a massive advantage. It's at 58-26 at half-time in favour of Bellevue. So Bellevue almost certain of the aggregate bonus point, even if that ends up being a disaster. The Kings Lynn Stars versus the Oxford Spires, also on Thursday night, and Oxford have an advantage in that one over Kings Lynn, 54-36, their advantage at half-time in that one. And then looking ahead to next Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, of course, isn't it? And we've got a double header because Bellevue Aces taking on the Sheffield Tigers at 12 o'clock. and then back at Overton in the evening at 7:30. So 2 legs of that one, and the Birmingham Brummies race the Ipswich Witches also on Monday. So those are the fixtures coming up over the next week, over the course of the bank holiday weekend as well on Bank Holiday Monday. And on that note, Kelvin Tatum will join us in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear as we look back on the British Grand Prix, which took place at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff last weekend. And we'll hear from Kelvin on his thoughts, and we'll also have a look ahead to what's coming up in the Rowe Motor All Premiership and his views on how the playoffs are shaping up in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
It has been a big week for British Speedway with lots of action in the domestic leagues, but not least the eyes of World Speedway on the Principality Stadium in Cardiff as Dan Bewley came home with a second title win in the British Grand Prix on Saturday night. But not just Dan Bewley on the podium, of course, it was a British 1-2 with Robert Lambert finishing in second place and the Birmingham Brummies number 1 Freddie Lindgren bagging third spot. So lots for the British fans to cheer, and we'll hear from Kelvin Tatum in a moment. Before we do that, let's hear reaction from the 2 British lads off the podium. First of all, Robert Lambert.
I couldn't have worked out much better, and I'm sure if Wolfie was back, I'd be a 1-2-3. So yeah, it's pretty cool that me and Dan got on the podium tonight. Obviously, everyone expect me to win. I'm expecting myself to win, but yeah, it's coming slowly. But yeah, everyone last year was like, why do you pick gate 2 in the semi? I picked gate 2 in the final today, but there is some logic behind it and the reasons to why. So yeah, I believe that was going to give me the first win.
Yeah, and you had done well from gate 2, but giving Dan the inside gate was going to be a risk.
Yeah, whoever was going to be off the inside is obviously going to be a strong contender, but yeah, I was confident, and when you're confident and you feel it in your stomach, you go with that. And yeah, I was battling and chasing him, but he was just on the good line, and you know, we was as quick as each other, but I couldn't make an impact.
Dan Bewley, what is it about finals when you get in them and this crowd is very appreciative of that, you win them?
Honestly, I could hardly hear, but yeah, 4 finals, 4 wins. Yeah, what a weekend, you know. Win the sprint race yesterday, it was a bit of a weird feeling after. It's like you've just won something, but yeah, like what now? Just go and take a shower. So, but yeah, this yeah, what a night. Yeah, it was a little bit touch and go on the semi, even making to the semi, you know, all on count back. But yeah, what a night. Just, it's been an awesome weekend. There's so many people here, I feel like, and I've seen so many people in my t-shirts too. I just can't thank you all for the support enough. And yeah, it's been a trying year, but it's turning around. And I had a few things I said before this weekend. One of them was to Phil. I was like, if I win, can we have a game of golf Sunday? And he accepted, but I don't think he thought I would do any good. So he's lost, but my gain. And then yeah, I was practicing at Workington this week. Shout out to them letting me ride, and wheelied a lap of it. I was pretty happy on it, and sent it to Darcy. I said, if I win in Cardiff, I'll try to do a lap for you. But yeah, failed on there. But yeah, everything else was a pretty good one. But just want to say a huge shout out to Rod the Mod, a guy who helped me a few years ago, and he's gone for a real tough time at the minute. Yeah, I just hope he pulls through, and shout out to him.
Dan, you won here 2 years ago. You said it's been a little bit of a tough year. You spoke in advance of this round that you had something to prove. Is it sweeter this time out because it's the first final you have made this year?
Yes and no, but I don't know. Winning's good, whatever. But yeah, I feel like I've probably been a bit hard to work for this year for the boys. You know, just haven't really got comfortable. But you know, they've believed in me, kept working, and yeah, it's, you know, starting to pay off.
Your Cardiff winner, Dan Bewley.
So another British Grand Prix in the bag, and Cardiff delivering once again. And for the second time in 3 years, we've got a British winner at the top of the podium, and that man once again is Dan Bewley, still remaining unbeaten in a Grand Prix final and taking maximum points as well, also winning the sprint race. Kelvin Tatum is with us, and well, Kelvin, great results. One that you probably didn't see coming, actually, in some respects, because looking back, of course, at the meeting, there's that big confusion confusion about who'd actually made the final stages of the meeting. At one point, Dan Bewley was the rider that might well have been out, finished in, I think, 8th place in the qualifying and got in there and took the lot in the end.
Yeah, that was a wonderful result and a fabulous night of Speedway all round. It reminded me of the earlier days in Cardiff with the enthusiasm and excitement in the stadium. Crowds aren't quite what they were, but there's no doubt the atmosphere in there was fantastic. Yeah, the whole deal about when we finished the 20 heats and this controversy and confusion over 4 riders on 9 points, I think at stage on our second monitor, all 4 of them at one point were out. All 4. Martin Vasilik initially, then it was Lambert, then it was Bewley, then obviously it was Matej Janowski in the end. Whether that was the right decision or not, I'm not entirely sure. They actually reverted to the world rankings, and as Matej Janowski is not in the series, inevitably he was the one that missed out. To the relief, of course, to the 2 British boys, because they were on a roller coaster of emotions. You know, there was a picture of Robert Lambert sitting quite disconsolately in his pit box, clearly believing that he wasn't going to take any further part in the meeting. In actual fact, I overheard Dan Bewley chatting to Abby last night saying, well, he thought it was over and he was going to put his bike up and pop out and have a beer. So, you know, it was quite staggering how that happened and rare, fortunately, but it was broadcasting on the meeting. We were kind of left in no man's land for a while there. So, but yeah, they got over that fabulously well and managed to get their way through to the final. Historic result, and the place went completely nuts. I had to take my headset off as they went across the line because it was so noisy. Really was. My ears were ringing for 2 days. But no, it was fabulous to be back at Cardiff, because the first 2 after COVID, there's been a sense of anticlimax to a degree. But this one, I think, has put the record straight, and I think it's put Cardiff right back on the map. So, yeah, it had a bit of everything. It really did. It was a great night.
And it delivered some big moments, some great racing, some sublime cutbacks like Dan Bewley on, was it Hülkenberg, I think, in his first heat, just diving up the inside there. It was fantastic. Tom Brennan battling Mikkelsen for the entire duration and just getting caught on the line. There was certainly some moments to get the fans on their feet, and praise as well to Ollie Olsen. He gets a lot of criticism, or has had a lot of criticism when the track's been bad, but we had some good racing once again, as we did in Warsaw as well. Both of the temporary tracks have delivered this season and bringing some great racing.
They have. It was unfortunate in 2022 because of the way the material was stored. It wasn't necessarily Ollie Olsen's issue. There was something happened where it had been put on gravel, and when they picked the material up, it actually had loads of stones, and I think the material had degraded and it just didn't bind together, and as a consequence the meeting was very difficult indeed. You're right, the meeting and the surface in particular behaved beautifully on Saturday night. There were no restarts, there were no crashes, and in actual fact we were rattling through the races. If we hadn't had that controversy and all sorts of confusion, the delay, I think we might have been done by 7:30. It really was quite staggering how quickly the meeting ran through. That's how smoothly it was. You're right, yeah, the racing was of a high standard. I think it enabled riders to be confident, to have a real good go. There was some chaos out there at times. There were some fabulous passes. And all round, I think, it'd be hard to criticise it. I'm sure you could nitpick a little bit here and there, but for a temporary track, I think everybody went away pretty satisfied. And of course, in Britain with a 1-2, that obviously was the icing on the cake. And I think it was timely for Dan because, he hasn't had a great run in the Grand Prix. He's sort of been a Neely man, sort of like starting Grand Prix. In truth, the qualifiers, he started well and did fade away. It looked like he was going to get a double-figure score quite comfortably, and an event actually only ended up on 9 points. So, and Robert Lambert likewise. But it just showed you the nature of the evening because you top scored on 11, you could miss out on 9, just 2 points between them. So that is rare, actually, for a top 8 in a Grand Prix. I can't remember it happening on many occasions, but Yeah, I it was fantastic, and as I say, Mr. Bewley is a man who seems to have ice running through his veins when he gets to those stages, doesn't he? He delivers. He doesn't miss out. He was very late coming into the start position, into his gate 1 position. I mean, literally only had a couple of seconds left when he rolled in, but then he took a deep breath and flew away from the tape. So fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
So, yeah, a British 1-2, and you say with Dan Bewley having ice in his veins and never really failing in a final in the Grand Prix, including the day before in the sprint race as well, which also delivered some drama in itself. But again, Dan Bewley winning there and performing there again when the pressure's on and getting another 4 points on the board. So 24 points for him in one weekend has certainly made a difference to his campaign now.
Significant move by him, one that was required because he was languishing down in, I think it was equal 9th or 10th with Wozniak. So, handy points for him. He can get on a roll now. You just sense the confidence should be there. And even there's a storyline with Dan, because he came out in the first session on the Friday afternoon for qualifying and he was 15th. He was slow. He wasn't quickest in his group. He found half a second to go to the top and beat everybody by a country mile on the qualifying times, and then got the inside gate, blew him away again. So, he is a remarkable character like that. He doesn't panic. He is quite a sort of like composed, relaxed sort of character. He doesn't appear to suffer with nerves. And it was a dream weekend for him in that regard. And all credit to him, as I say. 2 sprint race wins. He first final of the year, wins his home Grand Prix for the second time. It was stuff that dreams are made of. That will live long in the memory, I'm sure it will.
When you think about how long we've waited for a British winner as well, but obviously we had Bomber do it in 2007, and we waited all that time until 2022 for Dan Bewley to finally crack that nugget, and now he's gone and done it again. It sort of feels like a bit more expected that he's done it this time. It doesn't feel like as big a thing. Obviously the first one was massive, but it is still a huge achievement to go there, and there's not many riders that have won multiple British Grand Prix. Obviously Greg Hancock's done it, I think Jason Crump's done it, but he's now in a sort of an elite category of rider that's been there and done it more than once.
He is indeed. Riders like Tony Ricardson have done it a couple of times. There's no doubt that he is moving. His CV is improving. Look at his CV this year. He's won the British Championship for the 3rd time. He won the Speedway of Nations, with Robert just a few short weeks ago, and now he's won Cardiff for the 2nd time. He just needs to find a bit more consistency. And if he can manage to do that, then he could be a genuine World Championship contender. Right now, I would think his target is to make the top 6 and to make sure that he's a Grand Prix rider, to take any question mark out of the equation that he will be back in 2025. I think if he didn't make it, there's no doubt that he should get a wild card. But I think he's the sort of character that would rather not rely on that. But Dan Bewley is somebody that I think if he can just add that consistency that you see from a Bartosz Zmarzlik character and riders in the past that are able to, when things aren't quite right, those are the nights when you still need to get your 12 or your 14 points, not coming away with a 5 or a 6. That's the difference between winning a campaign and being a very good runner in it. So that's the next step for him. But second half of the season, we'll see how he gets on. He's got 2 venues where he's won. Next week, of course, he's going to Wrocław, where he has won before, and he knows the place like the back of his hand. But just quickly back before we finish on Dan, the weight of expectation as a previous winner coming to Cardiff, I can assure you, is huge. Because as you rightly point out, we're kind of expecting it now, aren't we? He's a multiple Grand Prix winner. He's done it once before. He's won other Grand Prix. He won in Melilla last year. He's won 4 now. And you sort of people, it's quite fickle out there. You go from the euphoria of the debut final, you've won it, and then people just think, well, of course he's going to win, because he's a top-class rider and he's done it before, so why can't he do it again? So it's not quite as straightforward as that. But, he did. I think that adds to the significance of his victory.
We should also shine a light on Robert Lambert, of course, who conversely is still waiting for his first Grand Prix win, but came very close, but not close enough at Cardiff. Second place, though, second on the step at the Principality Stadium is no small achievement. But crucially overall, though, that fires Robert Lambert at this point in time into second in the world right now. Still a bit of a gap between himself and Bartosz Szmajlik, 21 points, but you know he's there or thereabouts and in with a chance of a medal overall at the end of the season.
Yeah, Robert has is mastering the art of being consistent. He just had a blip in Gorzów, which was a shame, but he bounced back with a second place on Saturday in Cardiff and moves up to, because Jack Holder missed out. Obviously, he's leapt up the rankings and 90 World Championship points with 100 still available. So, you know, he is looking good for a medal, you know, and I'm sure he will be, you know, believing that he can maybe get gold. You know, we just don't know. But, yeah, I think Robert Lambert's performance was very, very strong. I think he showed tremendous commitment to the cause, and it was good for him to come back after a poor Grand Prix in Gorzów and ride so well. There is a but for me. There is a slight question mark. He had the first choice of gates in the final. He chose to go out of gate number 2 where he'd won a couple of races from. But maybe he may reflect on that. Maybe he should have taken the inside gate. And that may have given him the opportunity to win his first Grand Prix. When you get to those final stages, very easy on the outside looking in. I understand that. But maybe some advice there to say, look, I know you've won a couple of races from there, but if you give Bewley the inside gate, he only has to be level with you. If you are on gate 2, you have to make a smashing start and hope the guy on the inside doesn't get his way as well. You've got some uncertainties there. And it just didn't quite fall for him. It can't be far away, Ian. You keep knocking on the door like that. Sooner or later, you're gonna walk through it. So he looked pleased, didn't he? He looked genuinely pleased, and I don't think he has too much regret about it. But possibly since then, over the few days since then, he may have reflected on that. But still, nonetheless, another terrific performance from him.
Yeah, he managed to get something out of Gate 2, didn't he? Where I think up until that point, Gate 2 was one of the worst because there was a lot of success coming off Gate 4 as well for a few of the riders, certainly early in the meeting. But maybe he just felt that things were moving in that direction. But obviously, Dan Bewley made a great start, didn't he?
I can understand the train of thought entirely. You know, and he said in the interview afterwards he felt confident, and that's good news. Back yourself. Martin Vashlik won from Gate 3 last year. You know, we weren't expecting that. So it can be done, and it is done, and particularly at the later stages there. Sometimes, you know, the percentage of wins from gates can actually go completely out of the window because it's late in the night, gates have worn, you know, advantages have sort of, it all generally tends to level itself out. But, you know, if you're going to look at that with the first choice, possibly he may do things slightly differently next time. But still another great showing. And for Robert Lambert to be second in the world right now, I think he'll be chuffed to bits with that. He rides Wrocław very well. He's very comfortable in Poland, so he'll be looking to that. Torun, of course, is his home track, which is the final round in Poland in the Extraliga. So I would think he's very excited about the possibility of a medal in 24.
Perhaps the other story, though, was Bartosz Szmajlik, who failed to qualify for the semi-finals. Obviously, there was the one where he was banned last year in Vojens, but aside that, he was 51 semi-finals on the bounce, and so the first time he's not qualified. First time he's missed a Cardiff final while he's been riding as well, I believe. So quite a big day, really, for Bartosz Szmajlik to miss the cut there. As you say, it was a very competitive Grand Prix at the top end of the table, and it was easy for riders to just miss out, and he really just couldn't quite get to grips with things and just lacking the points overall through the course of the meeting.
Yeah, he didn't look really comfortable at all, and there's no question there is some sort of uncertainty. I think there's been, for such a long period of time, there's been this clarity, and you know, the decision-making process has been absolutely spot on, and even when he hasn't quite been at his very best, he's still been able to ground out results. And as you pointed out, that consistency of 51 semi-finals is just staggering. I mean, it really is. That's how good that is. I think he's been lacking for speed a little bit all season, and I think he's been working extremely hard to keep producing the results he has been. And fair play to him, he's made all the finals. So, and he's got a 27-point lead in the championship, but it's not through the wonderful displays. It's been through these really gritty performances. And I think circumstances, maybe getting beat up a little bit in the Extra Liga, running third in the National Championship. As you rightly said earlier on, Speedway of Nations result didn't go as well, although he did have a heavy fall there. You could kind of excuse it. He had a real good bang on his head when he came off. Might not have been at his best, but nonetheless, it wasn't a great result for Poland there. And he certainly wasn't dominant, far from it. He's tried a different engine, he's tried a different engine tuner very recently. That didn't work on Saturday night because he only used it once and then reverted back to the previous ones. But he just never really got going. He won a race and he looked really good, but then subsequently couldn't back it up. Is it a blip? Is it a downturn in performance because his mind's a bit scrambled? I think there's a bit of that. There is a bit of that. The psychology in sport, and particularly in Speedway with such only 60 seconds to prove yourself, plays a huge role. Huge role. It'll be very interesting to see what he does in the next 4 rounds. He still had a reprieve with Jack Holder missing out. If Jack Holder had won, it would only be 14-point lead. That gives a slightly different complexion. But Jack didn't quite manage to do that. So with Dan winning, it wasn't really a disaster because he still got more than a Grand Prix advantage over everybody else. But I think everybody will be watching with interest to see how Bartos reacts now and his level of performance going forward. Because I think Lublin, his club, has been involved in some of the decision-making process behind the scenes regarding engine tuners. And when you work with somebody for a long time, he's been with Kowalski for 7 years, to suddenly then have a different relationship, a different conversation with somebody, it didn't work straight away. He used it in practice in one run, he wasn't that fast on it. He used it in Heat 1. Possibly he feels that because he had such an advantage, Ian, with a 27-point lead, he had the luxury of being able to experiment a bit. But it didn't work. And it might be something that's put on the back burner for a little while. But no, nonetheless, it is the door slightly ajar. Are we seeing a slight decline here and a lack of form that will enable riders like Robert Lambert, like Mikkel Mikkelsen, like these other guys that are queuing up, because it's all very tight behind him, really tight. Are we going to see, that lead whittled away? I still fancy him, but it is a talking point for sure.
Yeah, well, as you say, that top 5 really what's separated by 3 points behind him. Obviously, he's got that 21-point gap, but you've got second place Robert Lambert 90 points, Smarslik on 111, Robert Lambert 90, Lindgren on 88 in third, Jack Holder 1 point behind at 87, Mikkel Mikkelsen also on 87 in fifth, and then you've got a bit of a drop down to Martin Vashalik and Dan Bewley on 75 and 73. So that top 5, though, are certainly all in the running for medal places. The next round, Wroclaw, of course, which is Dan Bewley's home track, but for Smarslik, he'll fancy his chances. He's going to have that partisan crowd, of course. He's going to be, it is another home Grand Prix there. So that's an opportunity for him to lay a marker down. He wins there, and you're probably thinking, well, we're all done apart from the parade in this. But if he has another bad one and concedes another 6 or 7 points like he did in Cardiff, then all of a sudden Riga, Voyens and Torren are squeaky bum time there.
Yeah, and we saw it last year when he was DQ'd in Voyens. Of course, it went down to 6 points with Freddie coming through in second place. And I think it pretty much went down to the last race, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah,
I think if results had gone right in the last race, there may well have been a run-off for the World Championship. And that would have been extraordinary. But Bartosz Smarslik is made of stern stuff. He is a very strong character. He won't want to let it slip. Not every season do you get it all your own way. Not every season does everything go smoothly. For whatever reason it is, he hasn't quite had this stunning speed, sort of like breathtaking performances that we've become accustomed to. I think we've seen one. Malila was extraordinary. He rode his socks off there and just came from everywhere. He was just not going to be stopped that night. But he hasn't reproduced that sort of performance on a regular basis this year, although he's still made every final until Saturday night. So I think they need to be cautious and calm to not overthink it and panic stations. But as you rightly say, we haven't seen much of this in the last 4 or 5 years. Even when Laguta won in 21, I mean, that was extraordinary speedway between the two. It wasn't because Bartosz Zmarzlik lost form. He just got beat by the better man that year. It was just fantastic speedway. This is the first time, I think, that there's been a period of time, and with a change of engine tuner at a strange time of the season, lack of form in the league, in its national championship. Who knows? How long will it go on for?
Still certainly possible for all those behind him to steal it off him, but it will be a tough task, you fancy. Just a couple of final things on Cardiff. Performance of Tom Brennan. He got himself 4 points. Could have been one more. I spilt beer all over myself as a result. But it was, great race there. Just pipped by Mikkelsen, but that was one of the high points of the Grand Prix as well for the British fans, of course.
Yes, absolutely. And Tom Brennan didn't disgrace himself at all. He can be proud of what he did on the biggest stage at home. He would have been nervous. He said he was excited, but I'm sure there was plenty of nerves involved in it as well. But it was a shame that he wasn't able to quite hang on to win a race in Cardiff. I'm sure he will do. Because there's a bright future for Tom Brennan. But no, I think he can go away having learnt an awful lot. I think what will be uppermost in his mind as he leaves the stadium, or he left the stadium rather, is the fact that, it's all very well being able to steal a win off a Jack Holder or Dan Bewley or a Freddie Lindgren when you're in the league, but they're a different animal when they're racing for the ultimate prize. All of a sudden, them fellas find another 10, 15%. So, I know personally when I was starting to ride in world finals, and you might be able to beat a Hans Nielsen or you beat an Eric Gunnarsson, and all of a sudden you come to a world championship around, and like they're going down one straight and you're going down the other, and you're sort of scratching your head a bit, going, "What's going on here?" But those fellas just are able to, and that's something you have to be able to add to your armoury as you become more experienced. You need to be able to ride your league racing, produce good, solid results. But then when you go to a Grand Prix, you need to have that, where all of a sudden that steely determination, you have to raise your game. So part of the learning process, and I'm sure he experienced that on Saturday night. But yeah, it's young Tom. I like him. He speaks well. He's well turned out, and I'd like to think that he will have a big future. And who knows? And making it next year or two, maybe he'll be a Grand Prix rider.
Well, he's certainly aiming at it. That's what he's aiming at, and setting his stall out, and certainly giving a good account of himself on that first full performance there as a wild card in the British Grand Prix. And he's come close to winning the British title, of course, as well, which is how he found himself in that position. So, he's had a good season. We are back in Cardiff in 2025, which is the other thing. There was always that question mark, is it or isn't it? But certainly Phil Morris saying last week that he can see the Grand Prix staying there as long as people support it, and it certainly seemed to be a good atmosphere, I think, around Cardiff, in the stadium, outside the stadium, in the fan zone. It seemed like it was, well attended, and people sort of positive about it as well. But we're heading back there in 2025.
Yeah, similar time of year, I believe. I don't actually have the date to hand. I'm not sure if it's even been announced yet. But
no, they haven't announced it yet.
I think it's going to be about the same time of year. But delighted that we're going back. The alternatives, people talk about Bellevue, fabulous track, of course it is, goes without saying, but you can't get enough people in there. I know the attendance isn't quite what it used to be at Cardiff. It's improving, and it was very enthusiastic there on Saturday, and you're right to say that the atmosphere around the place was upbeat, no question about it. It felt like the Cardiff of old. People really excited, genuine enthusiasm for the event. There has been a little bit of moaning and groaning and people possibly staying away as a consequence. But I tell you what, Saturday night will do Cardiff's reputation no harm at all. I think it really puts it right back on the map, and I fully expect people to go back in their droves next year. But where else could you go? Even if we're getting 25, 30,000, where can we go? Cardiff is, when the tracks are like that, Cardiff is the ideal venue. That place generates atmosphere. I think anywhere we go in the UK would be, unfortunately, with all respect to all the other venues, I think it would be a backward step. I really do. I think it's a major city. It's a fabulous stadium. It has history now, and we can get enough people in there.
And crucially, it has a roof, which means that you can be reasonably confident it's not going to get rained off, whatever else might happen. So that is its biggest bonus, I think, isn't it? And it is a cavernous stadium, but that is a great thing to have.
Oh, crikey, yeah. And when you think about the financial implications of taking on a project like that every year, it's not cheap. So, the fact that you've got the roof closed and you're 100% guaranteed to be on, because actually, as I walked away from the stadium on Saturday evening, it was just beginning to drizzle, and I just thought, it's the middle of August, but we're in Wales, so it's a microclimate down there, and you're absolutely correct. And if you had a Grand Prix at Bellevue or anywhere else without a roof early season, for example, I mean, the likelihood of rain coming in, you know what the weather was like at the beginning of this year. It never stopped raining. It rained every night. So, no, I'd like to see it continue. And I think performances and results like Saturday night can only do it the world of good, So, yeah, let's hope that we can back it up with another smashing year next year.
So, from the Grand Prix in Cardiff, your next stop was Ipswich. One of life's great journeys, traversing the nation there from one side to the other, pretty much. Just overall, where we're at with the British Speedway Row Motor Oil Premiership now. Obviously, the playoff places are done, really. I think Bellevue just need to ride a meeting, don't they, which they're going to do home and away. Certainly the second leg is going to be on Eurosport on Monday night with Sheffield, because they're riding Sheffield at lunchtime, and then it's back to Alderton on the evening. So it's a double header, classic bank holiday double header. But Sheffield leading the way, Leicester in second place, Ipswich in third at this moment in time. So whilst we know the four teams, we don't know who's going to be riding each other yet in the playoffs, because that is going to go down to first versus fourth and second versus third, and those positions are still fairly fluid.
Yeah, I got that wrong the other night. I actually said that they had choice, the team that comes top. That isn't the case, you're right. But actually, what actually happens at the end of the day will probably come down to stadium availability. It will have a bearing on what way round that goes. Top four, by and large, are done. Pretty much the top four that the majority of people have expected. You feel for Birmingham, Oxford and Kings Lynn. Oxford, of course, were hanging around in fourth place for a long time, but Leicester finally have clicked in the last month and a half, and they've all of a sudden got going, and they're a major threat. Everybody's talking about Leicester now, and they're going good at the right time. They don't have injury problems. They don't have a scenario where, they've got too many other interruptions. Those guys are fundamentally, league racers in that team. Max Frick, of course, is in the GP, but, the majority of that team, I think a catalyst for it as well has been, Frick's been going well, but Luke Becker's got going. Luke Becker was out of form at the beginning of the season, but Becker's performances recently have been fabulous. And I think, Masters and Douglas and Lawson, it's a solid team. We spoke about it in an early podcast this year, didn't we? And I thought that was quite a good league team. And they didn't get off to the start I was expecting, so they are on a roll now. And it wouldn't surprise me if they finish top. It wouldn't surprise me. Sheffield may have a say about it, of course they may, but they are in a rich vein of form. And, look, I feel desperate for Ipswich, I really do. The way it's worked out for them, that's tough. That's really tough, because their season, they've got another home match on Thursday. That'll be 3 home meetings in a week. And all of a sudden, if they were to lose again on Thursday, I mean, that's a mood hoover. They had so much enthusiasm and excitement. You've got Jason Doyle, you've got Emil Saifutinov, you've got Adam Ellis, Danny King. Very attractive team. You build your team around them top two. You lose both of them. And now they're not allowed to sign anybody. and they're struggling for guests for the playoffs because riders like Maciej Janowski and Freddie Lindgren that won't be in the playoffs, they won't be released by their Polish club, so they are not available. So it really does narrow the choice for riders at the very vital moment of the season. And that's where I think there should be special dispensation. It really should be, because that sort of, it almost rules them out, unless they're very fortunate. They did very well to cope without Doyle, very well. But they relied heavily on Sayfutinov, and unfortunately they've now lost him. So that's the way it is. But I don't feel it's quite right. But it is a tough business, and they're going to have to cope as well as they can do. But it's all bubbling up quite nicely. I think the playoffs I'd like to think the playoffs will be very hotly contested.
Well, yeah, and Sheffield and Ipswich, of course, facing each other on Monday night just gone, which was the fixture you were at. And the story there, of course, was Sheffield maybe not getting off to the best start, but then coming charging back into it once again and sort of really settling things in the top two, where Leicester sort of storming into the party as well with their win on Monday night. But it's coming down to those teams again, isn't it? Sheffield and Leicester in the next few weeks are going to face each other a few times because they've got this league meeting, and then they've of course it was Sheffield and Leicester where Emil got himself injured in the first leg. The two of them are going to be contesting the knockout cup final as well in the next couple of weeks. So they are two sides that are familiar with each other, and then they could end up against each other at some point in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, they'll be familiar with one another, won't they? That's for sure. They might be bored of each other by the end of it, but because they're going to be going head to head, there won't be too many. There won't be too many secrets as regards the teams. As I say, it's all about momentum at this time of year, and Leicester are looking ominous because they've got it. All the teams, Sheffield included, have injury problems. Rider replacement for Ty Woofenden. I don't think you'll see Ty Woofenden back this year in England. Obviously, young Dan Gilks last night, he's got an eye infection and he was out. But in truth, they coped very admirably, and they've got a lot of strength in depth, that team. I don't know quite which way it was going to go this year. But as I say, I think Monday night was a difficult night after Cardiff. Track wasn't great at the beginning of the meeting. Ipswich got off to a good start. It looked like they were going to cope admirably with the guests and the lineup they had. But all of a sudden, the track improved, and Sheffield made starts for fun and came through in flying colours. So, yeah, not too much longer to wait now, Ian, really, because, in the next week or two, we're going to know exactly who's going to be racing who. We know the teams, of course, but right now, Richie Hawkins saying last night that, they've got to forget about being top. They've just got to now regroup and try and put as good a sides together as they possibly can for the Knockout Cup and, of course, the semi-finals of the playoffs.
And looking at the Premiership table overall, obviously Sheffield top right now, Leicester second, Ipswich third, Bellevue fourth, Oxford fifth, Kings Lynn sixth, Birmingham seventh. Going back to the start of the season, when you were predicting the league, you're probably not far out there, Kelv. We said it'd come down probably between Oxford and Leicester for who goes through. Called that one. We haven't obviously got the final order yet, but you're looking like you were fairly on the money there, Kelv. It's almost like you know what you're on about.
Yeah, well, you've got to get lucky once in 30 years, haven't you? I've been trying to roll the dice for a while. I'm going to try and collect on it, but I don't know if I'm going to get the exact order right, Ian. I think that's a bit of a tall order, that one. But hey, but I did predict that Kings Lynn, Birmingham and Oxford would miss out. It's never easy, and it's quite tough to actually, at the beginning of the season, to suggest that those teams wouldn't have a great campaign. Fans will hate you for it, but inevitably, three teams do miss out. Oxford looked encouraging for a while, but they just have not quite had the consistency. Kings Lynn, again, losing Michalak and injury problems left, right and centre, that just hasn't been their campaign, and they had a good looking team actually, but it just doesn't seem to click up there. And Birmingham I just felt that team was sort of thrown together at the last minute. When Václav Milik wasn't really good. Pavlicki has been injured a lot. Great signing for Lindgren, but Lindgren can't do it on his own. Just can't do it on his own. Tom Brennan has ridden well for him, but they just haven't been strong enough. So it's a shame. But yeah, let's hope that they're around next year and they can come back.
And just finally, a word for Leicester, because they finally qualified for the playoffs. They've never done it before, and them coming back up to the top level of Speedway. Maybe there was an eyebrow raised when they said they were making the move up based on how it had gone for them in their previous times at the top level of Speedway. But Stuart Dixon and his boys there, as you mentioned there, they were a good league side, but they've finally got to the playoffs, having missed out, of course, cruelly in some respects last year, right at the death to Ipswich. So it was, they finally achieved that, and now obviously they go into the playoffs as now maybe the side that nobody wants.
I think they're favourites. I'd go as far as to say they're favourites. They don't have any problems, and they're all firing. And as I say, you see momentum at this time of year is absolutely vital. So, they secured it last night. They are on a roll. They've clicked together. The lineup is very experienced in England. No question about it. And Stuart Dixon, that would have stung last year, just slipping up. That would have stung because they were going along quite nicely, and then all of a sudden they were in free fall. And then the way it happened with releasing Chris Harrison, and he's guesting for the team that then actually knocks you out. I mean, crikey, that would have been one or two sleepless nights, I suspect, over that one. But credit to them, they've come out, they signed a good team, they've got a new owner, and clearly an ambitious one. And Stuart has rounded the troops up, and he's got them going. So they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next month or so. I'm sure of it.
So next for you then, obviously got the Wrocław Grand Prix coming up on the 31st, but Bank Holiday weekend coming up. And as I mentioned, it's a trip to Sheffield for you, Sheffield versus Bellevue on Monday night, which is the second leg of fixture earlier in the day. Classic Bellevue Bank Holiday double-header action, and sometimes that's actually tripped Bellevue up on occasion, those lunchtime fixtures at the National Speedway Stadium, but you'll be at Ollerton for the second leg.
Yeah, obviously it's quite cool of that because you've got that immediate result there, and you've got the continuity of, being able to reflect on that meeting which happened just a few hours earlier, which gives it a great storyline. Depending on the result, you can react upon that. That gives you a great storyline. Makes your work really easy in lots of respects, because a lot of time when there's weeks and weeks and weeks between meetings, you can look at the score, but it doesn't tell a story, does it? To me, that doesn't paint really very many pictures. And the fact that there was 2 points between the sides last night, and it was obviously a close meeting, but you don't really remember too much about it because it was weeks ago. But the fact of the matter is that, it will be quite a good meeting. I think Sheffield are pretty tough at home. I think Bellevue didn't travel very well early season away from home. They were poor, actually, at times away from home. So if they're going to win the championship this year, they've got to figure that one out. But Brady Kurtz is back. He's flying. I think Jamin Lidsey's he's not too far away. Obviously, Dan Bewley, if he can maintain his form, certainly around Allerton and Bellevue, he's pretty special. So I'd like to think it'll be quite a tasty Monday night. Wrocław, on the other hand, I think is a wonderful town, smashing stadium. The Olympic Stadium is just a pleasure to go and work in. It's normally a pretty good Grand Prix. It's a very good track. I'm expecting some fireworks there, particularly as we pointed out, there's 5 riders within 2 or 3 points. And with Bartosz Zmarzlik, you know what I mean? If you're a Grand Prix rider and you're thinking about, you're looking over at Zmarzlik, and for the first time in about 5 years, you're seeing a little bit of a hiccup, mate, that's good. You're going to be licking your lips. You're going to be thinking, maybe this is the year where we've got half a chance. So I expect some big performances there. So looking forward to that. But it's the exciting time of the season, isn't it? Everything coming to a head, and where all the medals are handed out, what's not to like?
Indeed. Well, it's is it 3 in 3 weeks for you with the Grand Prix? Because you've got Riga on the 7th and then Voyens the week after that. So it's all going to come thick and fast, isn't it?
Yeah, and playoffs as well. And we've got SGP2 as well thrown in for good measure. We've got 2 of those to come, 1 in Riga and 1 in Torrance. So that's 4 broadcasts a week. Semi-finals, Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. As I say, I've got plenty of strepsils in the bag. I've gone for the honey and lemon variety. I do prefer those.
Okay.
Other flavours are available. But
this is real insight.
Oh, it is indeed. Yeah, it's what keeps me going. Particularly in that stadium on Saturday night where it was air conditioned, and I think I've never been quite as dehydrated in my life. But there's no doubt that there'll be plenty of shouting and screaming going on in the next few weeks.
Good stuff. You're going to be on the TV more than EastEnders in the next few weeks, that's for sure. There we are. Kelvin, thanks a lot. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you back in action. Bank holiday Monday and then a busy September.
Indeed. Look forward to it.
My thanks to Kelvin Tatum. In the final part of No Breaks, No Fear, a little bit of a roundup from the championship pairs, which took place on the Friday night before the Grand Prix. And once again, the Red Car Bears were victorious.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Back to last Friday then, and a major event in British Speedway, the Championship Pairs, and the Red Car Bears clinched their second pairs title in 3 years as they defeated hosts Oxford in a dramatic final at Cowley. Danny King and Charles Wright were victorious for the Bears, having held the advantage for most of the race until Charles Wright was involved in a crash with Cheetah's captain Scott Nicholls at the end of the third lap. The referee deemed Nicholls to be the cause of the incident, meaning the Bears had won the meeting. Earlier holders Glasgow had topped the qualifying scores before being beaten by Red Car in the semi-final. Oxford progressed to the final by knocking out the Poole Pirates. So let's get some reaction from that then and hear from the two victorious riders. We'll also hear from the referee as well, Graham Hunter, on him describing his decision to exclude Charles Wright. First of all, though, I caught up with Charles Wright and Danny King on BSN after the fixture at Oxford on Friday night.
Yeah, a bit sore, shoulder, my wrist, see how I am in a couple of days and go from there. I've had plenty in the past, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have been in the wars, but nothing, obviously you're not in the back of the ambulance right now, which is a good sign.
For once, yeah. I've been in one in the pairs in the past, but no, it was a great result for us in the end, and fully deserved, and it's good to take this back to Red Car.
Well, yes, of course, it's the second time you've won it here. It is on one of your home tracks, I guess, but you have won this tournament before. The first time it was held here. Danny, there's the medal. I shouldn't see the medal or not. There it is. Yeah. It wasn't a perfect start for Red Car to begin with, but it's not about how you start, it's how you finish.
We didn't have it all our own way. We had to work hard, and certainly for myself, sort of up and down all night. But we got something working in the end, and the semi-final and final was the main ones, and luckily I got it going.
What was it, Danny? What made you get going?
Just set up. I think I was just making small changes through the meeting, and as the meeting progressed, track changed a little bit. You had to sort of chase that dirt quite wide. So I just set the bike up rather than for the inside, because I'm not the best at riding the inside, to do bigger laps basically, and made a little change on the clutch as well to try and make some gains.
We've seen that in one of the races. At gate one, you flew, put it around the inside, Charlie Boy come round you, and then you went to the back.
Yeah.
So you thought, that's not good for me.
I struggle right around the curve. I'm small, I can't get the wheels in line quick enough. So, it's one of them, you look for your teammate, and sometimes when you do that, you find yourself in the wrong position on track. Charles, I know he had the same in another race with me when he let me around, so it's tough. So in an ideal world, one can get away and you can tuck in and follow, and then you're both riding the lines you want to ride.
Charles, let's talk about that moment that decided it, the coming together between yourself and Scott Nicholls. Obviously, your view of it would have been probably fairly hectic at the time. But how did you read the situation?
Yeah, we were obviously both going in the corner together, and he sort of left me with nowhere to go. And I clipped his back wheel, sort of stopped still and drifted across my line. And people could see it either way. He said, and quite a lot of people saw it that was Scotty's fault on the night, and obviously so did the ref.
Not always you get to hear from referees when they made a decision, but we can hear now from Graham Hunter, who also spoke to BSN after that fixture on Friday at Oxford. And difficult decision to make, but here's his thought process.
It was a very difficult decision. It's not how I wanted the match to end at all. You wanted it to be decided over 4 laps on the track. Took my time with it, watched the replay over and over and over again, and I just felt that the rider in white just locked up ever so slightly going into the corner. He was out of shape, he just overlocked it, and I just felt Red had nowhere to go and ran at the back of him. Very, very difficult, not an awful lot in it. Lee put it to us earlier and said, is there not a call where you can say, neither rider's particularly at fault, go again, but unfortunately the rule book doesn't allow that. Once you've got a stoppage past the first bend, somebody's caused that stoppage and you've got that call to make. And I just felt the rider in white was just a little bit out of shape, trying to particularly lock up, I think, to get his teammate in yellow through, and I think just read Charles Wright ran out of room.
It's certainly a debate that's ignited conversation online, but ultimately the Red Car Bears claim their second championship pairs title in 3 years. Congratulations to Redcar, getting some silverware in the cabinet after what's been a disappointing season, what with injuries and so on, in the Cab Direct Championship. Other news in brief. Scunthorpe heading to Edinburgh on Friday for the first leg of their BSN Series semi-final. The next action at the Eddie Wright Raceway being a Championship NDL double against Oxford on August 30th. Plymouth still mathematically in playoff contention, and they face 3 matches in 3 days coming up this weekend. Trips to Redcar, Workington, and sandwiching a home clash with Poolin on the Saturday. That is some mileage. Redcar Friday, Plymouth on Saturday, and then Workington on Sunday. That is brutal on the old mileometer there. Scott de Courtney has stood down from his position as co-owner of Berwick, leaving his brother Jamie in sole charge. Stephen Dews remains on board as a co-promoter as well at Shieldfield Park. So there's a few highlights from the Cab Direct Championship. Let's have a look at the full fixture picture now before we round things up. And Wednesday, August 21st, Cab Direct Championship, it is Oxford versus Glasgow at 7:30. The first of 2 meetings between the two sides this week. BSN Series semi-final first leg between the Poole Pirates and the Workington Comets. Thursday, Row Motor Oil Premiership action, Ipswich versus Bellevue and Kings Lynn versus Oxford. We've got National Development League action at Sheffield as the Sheffield Scunthorpe side face Leicester on Thursday night. Friday, Cab Direct Championship. It's the second part of that clash between Glasgow and Oxford, which will be on BSN this Friday night. Redcar versus Plymouth, as you just heard about, and the BSN Series semi-final first leg between Edinburgh and Scunthorpe. British Youth Championships also taking place on Friday night at Redcar after the championship fixture. Saturday, Cab Direct Championship action then at Plymouth versus Poole, and Sunday, Plymouth, as we just heard, up the road to Workington. It's a very long road, but they start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon at the GT Tyres Arena. National Development League action at Oxford as the Oxford Chargers take on Leicester. And then next Monday, it is Bank Holiday Monday, don't forget. Row Motor Oil Premiership, Bellevue versus Sheffield. At lunchtime, 12 o'clock start at the National Speedway Stadium. In between that, we've got action then at Birmingham versus Ipswich at 7:30, as is Sheffield versus Bellevue, which is also at 7:30, but that one also on Eurosport as well. And that rounds up your action between now and our episode next week. Have a great week in Speedway, whatever it is you're doing. I can tell you now that next week we'll hear from Richard Lawson, because it's going to be his testimonial on the 1st of September. At Poole, 5 p.m. start time. Get that in the diary. So that's Sunday, 1st of September. But we will hear from Richard Lawson on next week's episode. Have a great week in Speedway, whatever you're doing. Take care. We'll catch you on the next one, and have a great bank holiday weekend.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.